Hello everyone, this is Aadhar. I am an illustrator, I am an artist, I'm also an animator, and welcome to my Draw Anything series. So, through this series, we'll be going through a myriad of subjects which I will be drawing, and I'll be presenting to you how my thought process is behind my drawings. They might serve as tutorials to you as well, to the beginners who are watching. And yeah, I started this a couple of days ago to basically record myself and document my process of drawing, and yeah, also to share to you guys how my process is and if you can learn anything from that. So in this video, we will be going through three of these subjects. As you can see, I'll be drawing a chair, a bike, pretty cool looking bike, and also a building, an abandoned building is what it looks like. So all of these references, by the way, have been pulled from Pinterest. That's what a lot of the artists do. Pinterest is kind of like a gold mine for references. Well, it is kind of losing its reputation because of all the AI that's been mixing in, but still it does serve its purpose. So these are from Pinterest, and then yeah, I decided to draw all of this. So yeah, with that, I think let's get it started. Yeah, so let's start with this chair. All of these drawings are, by the way, pre-recorded so that they're not real time. It would be pretty boring if it was real time, is what I thought, and then I pre-recorded them, I sped them up, and I'll be talking through my thought process, what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, right? So let's start with a chair. The first thing I will be thinking of whenever I start a drawing are the basic shapes that the subject is comprised of, right? So this chair, I'm looking at it, and it has like this a base cube and then a slanted cube right over it, and that's what I'm drawing here. So this is the base cube where you sit down, and then this is the basically the slanted cube for the support, right? And the base cube is kind of it covers everything like till the bottom. So this whole shape is this shape, and then this shape is behind. And from that, I'll start building up the secondary shapes that are around it after the big shapes, right? So this for the support, I just drew a very simple rectangle. Again, we're not aiming for perfection. We're just aiming for expression. We're aiming to depict, to convey that, okay, we're drawing a chair and we're drawing this chair. It doesn't need to be the same thing. It's not photography. It's drawing, it's sketching, it's how you see the subject, not how the subject is, right? You can also stylize it, which I'm not doing here. I'm just trying to replicate it the best I can. Again, I'm not aiming for perfection. So yeah. So I have been drawing all of these secondary shapes. This cushion kind of a thing in the armrest, right? And then I'm going into the bottom. Again, I haven't erased a lot of things, and I would encourage all of you to try to do that, because erasing will get you into this habit of really, I can get away with everything kind of a thing. If you're drawing on basically a paper, try to draw with a pen, not a pencil, right? That will, make you own up to your mistakes. Even if you have made a mistake, you will have to live with it, right? So that way it'll increase your confidence. Constantly erasing something will kind of diminish your confidence, not gonna lie, because even the smallest mistake, you'll start doubting yourself and you erase that. But if you're actually drawing without erasing at all, look at this. So I made a mistake right here, right? I'm not erasing it, I'm just following through. Because, this is digital, I'll have the luxury of erasing it later as well. But to those of you who practice traditional, that may not be the case, right? So try to make the mistakes your own. That makes you human, right? So yeah, I finished drawing the simple shape right here. Then taking that and also the image itself as reference, I started going straight in with how the chair itself looks like. So this is in my head now. This shape is already in my head. It's usually I don't draw the simple shapes. I'm not saying for everything, because there's a lot of things that I do need to construct as well, because I don't have the idea of how things work sometimes, right? But with a chair, I kind of know, because I've practiced. I've drawn quite a lot of chairs. Might not be the same chair, right? But I've drawn quite a lot of chairs to know that, okay, chairs kind of behave this way. They have an armrest, they have a seat, and then, there's support at the bottom. And yeah, so that was the chair. Now we're moving on to the bike. Same principle applies. Now I'm not going through the construction with this bike, the motorcycle, but the construction is already there in my head. You see the front part of it. I'm isolating this part from the rest of the body and then drawing it. That makes it easier. That makes makes it easier for me to kind of compartmentalize this into different shapes and then draw the different shapes individually. And at the end, it will come together, right? So again, I'm going straight in, no construction, no nothing. And I'm not aiming for perfection. If you see the shape of the tire, the wheel here, it does not exactly match the shape of the wheel here, right? But I'm not erasing anything, because it communicates that, okay, this is a wheel and this is this wheel, although it's not perfect. Also, these details that you see. I like making marks like this so that I know the proportion of the thing, because proportions are important. Even if you're not aiming for perfection, try to be as accurate with the proportions as you can. So these kind of mark making helps, right? So where did the bike start? Where does the bike end? Those things. Now I'm going in again, not very accurately, but just marking the general shapes, the big shapes, where they are, how they're behaving, what's their relationship with one another, right? All of these things are in my head when I'm drawing this. So now these details that you see, these will not match what's here exactly, because it doesn't matter at the end. The details here, I know how a bike is, I know how a bike functions, and the mechanical parts that a bike has, right? So I'll pause this for a bit. So these details that I've drawn, these just came like out of nowhere. Like there's some boxy stuff, there's some wiry stuff. I know that. I know that's what a bike is made of, like in between the big shapes. So these small shapes, you can just fill them in however you please. They don't need to be even reference accurate. These can just come from your imagination, right? And if you can be if you know how to draw boxy shapes and wiry shapes, as I told you, then you can easily draw whatever is left here, because I have already completed the major shapes, the handles, the headlight, this tire, the things that stand out. People will be looking here, I'll be looking here when I'm looking at this bike. This is what makes it cool. This is just supporting secondary stuff. So I just filled it in on a whim, right? So that's what my process is. That's how I think about it. So that was the bike, which is more or less completed. Now we'll be moving on to the building, right? So the building, I think, is the easiest of the bunch because it's just a box, a boxy shape. I'm moving things around just to fit it. So after that's done, the main boxy shape is done. The most important thing with boxes is perspective. So I'm trying to find the level, the horizon plane, right? So the thing you see here, from where the stairs start, I don't know if you can call this a balcony, whatever. So this is very level, right? So if you can see the top of the building, the roof, it shows that it's a box, right? There's this pointy shape in there. There's a pointy shape right here as well, but it's not really shown because this is level. It doesn't turn this way, it doesn't turn this way. So I know this is close to the horizon line. The horizon line, when we look at the horizon line, it's where everything kind of comes level, even though it's boxy, right? Even though it's circular, it can be any shape. The horizon line, everything becomes kind of flat, like a line, right? So that's what I'm looking at, that's what I'm finding first. So after I drew like a very general top of the building, I find that horizon line with this, what's level. Now, after I draw this, I can easily know, right? So this is, I'll go, okay? So that thing, right? So above the horizon line, things will start seeing the bottom planes of things, right? So it will be cut like this. We're seeing the bottom plane. If you look at the roof, we're not seeing the top of it, we're seeing the bottom of it. But below the horizon line, we'll start seeing the top of things, right? That's very important if you're drawing boxy things like this in perspective. So, and a lot of the times, if it's not in perspective, it'll look very flat. And we don't want flatness, we want to replicate the image. The image is very dynamic. I mean, not super dynamic, but still for a box, it is dynamic. So we try to capture that, right? So finding the horizon line is very important if you are drawing some things like buildings, even cars, boxes, tables, chairs, whatever. It is important. Now let's continue. Now I'm just building the shape of it. As you can see, the shape here is this, while the shape on the top is this, right? So I'm just filling in the secondary shapes now, the windows and everything, the ventilation kind of a thing, the big window door combined thing. I'm inside of the building also. I'm going with the contours of what is here, right? And then building this window through these lines. Now there are the stairs, the metal stairs, right? And then the door. And then I'm going in with the foliage. Now, when you're drawing foliage in scenes like this, they are not the things that are standing out the most. The building itself is what is standing out, right? And the foliage that I'm going in with is very expressionistic. It's not realistic at all. It's just some scribbles, scratches that I did, right? But it conveys the idea. We're not aiming for perfection. We're aiming for conveying the idea that, okay, this is a building, this is this building, and this is the foliage surrounding it, right? So again, it's believable. I didn't draw it perfectly. I didn't even draw like a lot of the things. It's not filled in at all, but still, it is believable, right? And now I'm just drawing a lot of the secondary things that are around the building, again, following the same perspective, which is important. I am following the same perspective. And there, the building is completed as well. So let's move on to coloring, I guess. The coloring is the simpler part of this. The sketching is the more something that needs more practice. All right, see you on the other side. So yeah, we finished the sketching part. As you can see here, all of the drawings are there, along with the references. So we will now move on to coloring these. The coloring will not be, in detail. We're not trying to render these. We're just trying to make them believable. So it will just be a flat layer and a shadow layer, nothing more. Okay. So let's move on to coloring and how I approach coloring usually with my quick sketches like these. Okay, so I choose a base color, like I'm coloring the building, I guess. So I'm choosing a base color, trying to replicate the building's base color as closely as I can. I did not use the eyedropper tool. I used my eye. I eyeballed it. So I think that's important for artists to know how close they can get to replicating colors. I mean, I like to do that. You can use the eyedropper tool, it doesn't really matter. Now I'm just filling in with the green where there's green, the orange where there's orange, and a little bit of these blue hues that are there, right? So I'm just going in with all of those things. It's a very light wash. I don't think I can call it a wash even, because this is not really traditional. It's a very light layer here, so that when I add the shadows actually become the darker spots and then make the lighter spots pop. I'm trying to replicate what watercolor looks like in traditional, in digital when I'm doing this. By the way, this is Krita, my preferred software of choice. You can use anything. I mean, if you want to follow along with these drawings, you can use a pen and a paper. You can use other softwares as well. So yeah, as I was saying, I'm trying to replicate what watercolor looks like on paper with these little coloring demos. So yeah, I'm just going in with a little bit of color variation so that it makes it pop or stand out. It doesn't look very monochrome and monotone. Now I'm using this purple for the highlights. If you can see, I've made a new layer, multiply layer. I have the luxury to do this because I'm doing it on digital. But if you put in a very light wash, you can just go in with a purple, a darker color in just like that in watercolor as well, right? So it will just mix and stick on top. So yeah, for me the most important thing while coloring is our values. I'm constantly observing the values rather than the colors themselves, because if I can get the values correct, not even close to the reference right now, I'm not trying to replicate the reference. I'm just trying to make the building believable and as good as I can with the use of these colors. I pulled my camera back there to know if the building still stands as a building, if we're looking at a small icon of it. So that's important sometimes, because you want it to be readable. Readability is important when you're drawing anything, right? So yeah, now I'm going in with the chair. Again, as I was saying, the values are important. Where are the darks? Where are the lighter values? All of those things. The color can be anything, literally. I'm not even kidding. You can use any color to anything. Even the human face can be drawn with a myriad of colors. The only thing you should be careful of are the values of those colors, right? Values, by value, I mean the darkness and the lightness of things, right? So that's what we refer to as value in drawing, in art. Not just in art, in general, even in photographs. They're very very careful about their values. Okay, so here I painted the base, and then I'm going in with the darker colors again, observing the values of the reference, where there's dark, where's light and everything. And yeah, I'm also going in with a little bit of highlights, but these highlights are not in a different layer. This is just me erasing parts of the drawing or painting white in some parts of the chair where you can see if it's getting lighter, right? So I just painted a little bit of white. I'm trying to replicate the floor as well, making it a little shiny with these legs of the chair, showing through the floor. So yeah, that was the chair. Now we're moving on to the motorcycle. The motorcycle here, I think I had the most fun painting and drawing the motorcycle as well, because it has a lot of things, but it has kind of a uniform color palette. However, I also have the challenge to make it look readable, right? If I just paint a blob of black over it, it will not be as readable. So I'm trying to vary my grays and my browns and all of these colors to separate different compartments into different colors, so that you can read them as separate compartments. That's the challenge an artist has, right? So as I'm going in, I'm going in very carefully with the values. So even the pen that I'm using, it has pressure sensitivity, right? So I'm going in, putting pressure in some places, putting not much pressure in other places, so that it doesn't draw as dark as, dark in places and very dark in other places, so that the values stay diverse and then the values stay consistent with the reference, right? So that's what I'm doing. I'm going with the shadows and everything now, and yeah, that's basically the coloring process. It's much simpler than the sketching process itself. It is much shorter as well. I am not going in very deeply to render these things as realistic as possible, but still I'm making them as believable, as grounded in reality as I can, so that they read as bike, chair, building, which I have been saying a lot in this video. But yeah, that is very important. Yes, and these are the finished results that you can see. So that was my little process of how I approach my drawings, and I will be continuing this Draw Anything series. If you find it good, if you find it helpful, please be sure to suggest other things to draw in the comments. Please follow me if you find my insights informational or educational for yourself. If you're able to draw more things because of what I've been saying and how I show you my process, it would be very helpful for me. And to everyone who is watching, thank you for watching. With that, it's goodbye for the other video.